ticking, so we got about 50 seconds.
Yep, you had a shot. I had it. He was exposed to me. So we both had a scratch last week.
Okay, welcome back to the September 17th general meeting for the Monterey Peninsula Airport District Board. It's 10:40, and we are still on item I-1, and we were getting ready to go to public comment remotely. Mr. Huber, do we have anybody ready to speak?
You do. The first person is Jean Rash.
Ms. Rash, if you could state your name and what city you're from?
Hi, it's Jean Rash from Monterey. I'm a little out of breath because I just walked the dog with a 10-minute break.
No.
Thank you first for repeating the presentation at the second reading. I know that implies that it's repetitive for you folks, but it's been a wealth of information for me, and I'm sure a wealth of information for the public. And I appreciate the intent to share all that with the public. And as most of you know, I'm a council member on the city of Monterey, so I get lots of complaints about the flights. And we're just coming off Car Week when we had a lot of private flights. So that made it worse recently. Now, my constituents are residents, but many of them are business owners. Many of them are in the hospitality industry. We all want hospitality to be successful and for our transient occupancy tax to continue into the city of Monterey. We want our businesses to succeed, but we also want our residents to be mentally healthy. And that's what you're hearing today, is trying to figure out that balance. It sounds like we're dealing with a voluntary situation, and the two pieces of ideas I have would be to have a strong commitment to education of your guidance policy about voluntary restrictions. You have the intent in your resolution 1910, and I would appreciate a strong campaign of sharing that with all your pilots and the flight schools so that they know the expectations even stronger than they know now. And it dawns on me that you might just use the word guidance and drop the word voluntary or mandated or legal or illegal. And it's just the policy of the airport to have these sets of guidance. That's one idea. The other is to create incentives for good neighbor pilots and flight schools and users of the airspace, to incentivize them wanting to be a good neighbor. And you'd have to fill in the blank on this. I mean, priority hangars, priority exit times, priority something, some kind of an incentivized program where they are rewarded for being good players.
Mr. Chair, the speaker's time has expired.
Thank you. Who's next?
Mr. Chair, next it looks like Carla X Lobo.
Thank you. My name is Carla Lobo, and I'm a Seaside resident speaking today as a deeply concerned community member. I want to start off by saying this. I fully expect this issue to be reported back at tomorrow's City Council meeting. I do not recall any notice or reminder that this repeal was coming down the pipeline by our representative, and that is unacceptable given how directly it affects Seaside residents. Our community deserves to be informed and engaged before decisions like this move forward, not after the fact. I'm here today to strongly oppose the adoption of ordinance number 933, which proposes to repeal ordinance 308, 309, and 310. Longstanding community safeguards that limit airport hours of operation, regulate aircraft altitude near residential areas, and restrict touch and go and stop and go training exercises. To be clear, repealing these ordinances without community input is dangerously and irresponsible. First, lifting restrictions on operational hours opens the door to 24/7 airport activity, increasing nighttime noise pollution, depriving sleep and harmful public health, especially in neighborhoods like Seaside, Delray Oaks, and New Monterey that already bear the brunt of low-flying aircraft. Second, eliminating altitude regulations removes critical layer of protection between aircrafts and homes. While the FAA may hold regulatory authority, these local ordinances were put in place to reflect our community voices and provide guidance for responsible operations. Removing them hands over all control to federal enforcement, which has consistently failed to respond to local noises and safety complaints. Third, repealing restrictions on repetitive training exercises, especially without any requirement for local oversight, transparency, or accountability, threatens both our quality of life and the environment. These touch and go loops have been a long-standing source of frustration, and if anything, they need tighter controls, not fuel deregulation. We all want to see our airport thrive, to bring in economic benefits, job opportunities, and regional connectivity. But we expect our elected representatives to balance that vision with the health, safety, and voices of the communities you serve. There's a way to work together and solve these challenges, but it starts with listening to us, not bypassing us. Even if these ordinances are considered outdated or unenforceable under FAA rules, their advisory roles still matter. Stripping them away without any replacement policy, no sequel review, and no community forum isn't modernization, it's neglect. Let me remind you, you were elected to represent us. That means fighting for our interests, not fast tracking policy changes that affect our health and well being behind closed doors. Every resident deserves a seat at the table, not just developers, not just aviation advocates, all of us. This is not a simple legal update. This is a rollback of community protections, and we deserve better. Please do not remove or move forward with this repeal. At minimum, pause the vote, and until there is
Thank you very
proper
much.
legal review, environmental study, and repeal,
Thank
public
you. Your time
engagement,
is up.
update these ordinances.
Who's next?
Mr. Chair, next we have, I believe, Ann Kern.
Thank you very much. Members of the board, I'd ask first for a clarification. When council read the ordinance 1910 into the record, he stated that the hours were till 0700. I would like clarification because the document that was on screen was actually 0500. So I'd like that to be clarified before the end of the meeting today. But I'd like to speak as a concerned citizen today. My name is Ann Kern, and I am a resident of Kona. I'm speaking today to strongly oppose any move to repeal the airport's existing noise and safety ordinances. These regulations exist for good reason, to protect the health, safety, and overall quality of life for communities surrounding the airport. Repealing them would not only invite greater disruption and risk, but would also erode the fragile trust between the airport district and the public it serves. Building and maintaining trust with the community must be a top priority. That trust is earned through transparency, consistency, and a demonstrated commitment to balancing aviation interests with the well-being of citizens. Rolling back ordinance that safeguard peace and safety sends the opposite message. Noise restrictions are not just about decibel levels. They're about protecting sleep, mental health, and community well-being. Safety ordinances aren't burdens. They are the baseline of responsible airport governance. Ordinances addressing these concerns were signed by the Monterey Peninsula Airport District board members decades ago. excuse me, Monterey residents should not now be asked to stand in front of the FAA alone to argue that agreements once made in good faith are still in effect. The MPAD district board and staff should be partnering with and standing with the community to fulfill commitments made by this board. I urge the board to keep these vital protections in place and demonstrate that community trust is not a cost of doing business. It is a foundation for it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next,
Mr. Chair, next we have, I believe, A. Gertsen, Gertsen.
Good morning. My name is Alex Kurtzen. I am Senior Director of Airport Advocacy at the National Business Aviation Association, NBAA. Thank you for the opportunity to join you from our headquarters in Washington, D.C. We represent companies and individuals who rely on aircraft as part of their business or otherwise involved in supporting business aviation. Airports are part of NBA membership, and we work hard to make sure they continue to be good neighbors, provide access to all types of aviation, and thrive. I've been listening to the comments from the community, and we're always sympathetic to the noise concerns and quality of life from those who live near the airport or under the flight paths. Working with airports and communities nationally, we find that it is most productive and effective to work collaboratively to identify quiet hours and to develop voluntary procedures to address aviation noise, emphasis on voluntary. We appreciate your attention to ensure that local ordinances are in compliance with all applicable laws. In this case, Mr. Huber, General Counsel to the Airport District, has advised that all of the ordinances under consideration are preempted by federal law and accordingly are unenforceable. We concur with that analysis and urge the board to proceed to repeal those ordinances. As Mr. Huber explained, all of the ordinances conflict with Federal Aviation Administration and other federal legal requirements. In regard to Ordinance 309, the courts have been emphatic that only FAA and not local entities may regulate paths of aircraft in airspace. Irrespective of whether it has ever been enforced, this ordinance has been invalid since it was enacted and should be rescinded. Further, in regard to Ordinances 308 and 310, the board routinely has accepted airport improvement program grants from the FAA, including more than $40 million in fiscal year 2024 for runway, terminal, and apron projects. These grants are accompanied by a series of assurances, which among other requirements prohibit an airport sponsor from restricting the hours or types of operations at its airport. Finally, we wanted to make you aware that the recent letter from the Monterey Fly Safe Coalition, dated August 18th of this year, includes significant inaccuracies. The letter asserts that the restrictions cannot and should not be repealed. The board should be aware, however, that the letter invokes a 2008 airport guidance document. That pamphlet explicitly describes the Monterey curfew as voluntary. The letter also suggests that if the ordinances are repealed, the group intends to file a Part 16 complaint with the FAA. However, the group not only has no standing to do so, but entirely misunderstands the assurances cited in its letter, which are intended to protect aeronautical activities at an airport. As mentioned, access to airports is a vital concern to NBA and our members and the general public, and we appreciate your efforts to ensure that the ordinance applicable to Monterey are up to date, not susceptible to misuse, and ensure airports' ongoing eligibility for federal funding. We appreciate the opportunity to share these comments, and we'll be pleased to be available to engage and assist with these or any other airport-related matters. Thank you so much.
thank you.
Next is Mary.
Mary, state your name and where you're from.
She's muted.
Mary, you're muted if you're speaking.
Can we come back to Mary?
Sure. Next is Samsung SMS921U.
Mr.
Good morning, board.
Samsung?
Good morning,
ahead.
members of the board. My name is Andrea Olson, resident of Monterey. I think I want to start my presentation or my public comment with the word balance. I think that that's very important for us to all be mindful of. Obviously, Monterey Airport is a gem in our community. It's vital to e-commerce, which we all know is a struggle these days. Monterey itself has a $10 million deficit. So I don't want to come across as not valuing the gem of the airport in any way. We certainly appreciate the conveniences being residents. When I was a kid, it was very exclusive to use the airport. It was very pricey with limited service. And over my lifetime, it certainly has expanded, become more affordable and that sort of thing. So I definitely want to come across as valuing the airport, super excited for the expansion. That's an exciting time for the community. But I also think that we need to be mindful of being neighborly, being balanced, and appreciating those of us residents that are here full time. And I have a young family, certainly been impacted by early morning flights, late flights, living up in New Monterey. That flight path has been increased dramatically over my lifetime. Lots more airplanes coming across the hill. And I feel like sometimes they're almost going to land on my roof. That's how close they are to my property. So I just wanted to say that it's important for us to be, mindful of operating hours and kind of past practice and just being neighborly and wanting to provide a balance with being on the business aspect of it, but also the human aspect of it as well, because we're all working very hard. We all need our good sleep, but we understand that, the airport also needs to be able to operate with all of the carriers and that sort of thing. And that's really my public comment today.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, next is Mr. Ernest Gray.
Hi, good morning, members of the board. I'm Ernest Gray. I have a house in Marina and also one out in Oak Hills. And just to give you a quick background, well, first I want to say I fully support the rescinding of the old outdated ordinances as presented to the board. And I've been a resident of this county since 1982, long time. I was stationed at Fort Ord, and I understand the noise issues because I was on the Army's noise complaint board at the time when Fort Ord was active. But with that being said, I'll say there's been flight schools on Monterey Peninsula Airport since the Navy started the airport in the 1940s. And then 1963, there was a full-time flight school on the airport that did numerous flight operations every day. And as a pilot, I can tell you I started flying before I was driving cars. So, and one thing that was always trained into me was flying safely and trying to follow all the FAA guidance and rules. And as an IFR rated pilot also, it becomes more to follow those rules. So, but one thing I just like the community to know that sometimes flying into Monterey, there's one variable we can't control, and that's weather. And sometimes while trying to maintain the flight pattern altitude, we have to dip a little below that sometimes, rarely, but when the clouds come in, we have to fly safe, which is our number one rule, is always flying safe. And so as a pilot that's been in and out of Monterey numerous times, I can tell you that's one rule I've always followed. And as far as some of these residents, I understand their noise complaints, but weather also affects that, because as we found out back in the 90s and 80s when I was on the board there, is that sometimes we get the marine layer causes noise to reflect and makes it louder in one area versus another. That's beyond anybody's control. And it's just something you have to be aware of that happens. And then also, as note, is the airport's been there for a very long time, way before many of the homes were built in Monterey Peninsula. And so their real estate agent should have notified them of the airport's presence. And if they didn't, then that's on the realtor and that they bought their homes for. So, and I'm under the flight path for Salinas, so I understand some of the concerns. I've insulated my house, and so I barely hear them now. So anyway, that's about it. And I appreciate the board's support and hearing everybody's comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Mr. Chair, is Ginny B.
Jenny, you there?
Hello, are you there?
Yes.
Good morning. My name is Ginny Babbitt. I live in New Monterey. And it's very clear that this is a very extremely convoluted, complicated, emotional topic. And yet, even though you claim, and we've heard from others, to be limited by FAA regulations, you clearly are not bound to do nothing. Because July 16, you did do something. The noise is clearly a significant factor above all others. Staff has provided ample information on this, and that all the planes are quieter than decades ago is it's irrelevant. Noise isn't just about decibels, it's about frequency. In the July 16 meeting about repealing the ordinance limiting airport hours, there was considerable confusion among the directors and staff about which non-operational hours. And the questions arose. Is it 11 to 7? Is it 12 to 5? Thank you, Director Armani, for looking it up. Given that flights are currently landing between 11 and 12 every night, I'm in the landing pattern, not the takeoff. It appears that midnight is our baseline. And given the possibility existed then, July 16th, the hours of midnight might be from 6 or 7 a.m., then the board had the chance then to reestablish the time and noise guidance, but you didn't. It appears through all of this that I've been listening to, past meetings today, that good governance, which we're all pretty driven by, especially you, or better governance by the board could include exploring more creative solutions to all of these challenges. So thank everyone for all of your input. It's complicated, and I wish us all well. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, last we have, again, recalling Mary.
There you are.
Yeah. Okay. Yay. I get to speak. All right. Good morning, everyone. Chair Miller and members of the airport board, audience, and staff. My name is Mary Fortune, and I'm in Seaside resident, and I really appreciate the data that has been shared. But the reality is, honestly, post-COVID, any kind of voluntary guidelines do not work, and I'll share why. Okay. The other thing I ask that you do is form a task group made up of people from each of the cities surrounding the airport. This would be a working group that would have authority to make real changes and at a time that works for everyone. Membership could include citizens, board members, airport administrators, pilots, flight schools, air traffic controllers, whoever should be part of the solution. Inclusiveness and transparency wins the day. I have to tell you, but you're welcome to come in and hang out with me. But beginning fall of 2024 in Seaside, small planes started doing, and then this has come to that voluntary in quotes thing. Small airplanes started doing multiple laps or donuts overhead, turning directly in from the coast, flying straight overhead, and flying low in violation of FAA guidelines. This is daily, starting early in the morning to late at night, daily overhead in this highly dense populated area. The small planes can be heard and felt flying overhead. In fact, a select few of them sometimes have done up to 12 laps in a session, then combined with everything else, sometimes over 20 times in a day. And again, it feels like we're living in the middle of Laguna Seca Raceway. And I'm in a really great neighborhood, great neighbors, but it's not the peaceful and quiet neighborhood we all know and love. Once disturbances were filed, the situation escalated and planes either increased their laps, dive bombed the neighborhood rooftops, or turned straight in from the coast. Again, this was never a problem until late last fall. And why are they allowed to do this? And you want to repeal the guidelines now? Removing them would be detrimental to thousands of helpless seaside residents living in these areas that are densely populated. Basically, you're allowing them to do this morning to late at night and disturbing our daily lives. On the ground, okay, on the ground, there are laws to protect and preserve the peace. How is this any different? Seaside residents, all residents, even all of you, have a right to a peaceful enjoyment of our property. Please support and respect us. And finally, I offer to volunteer to serve on any community, task force, talk to whomever, and I really thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else?
And the only person with a hand remaining is Ginny B, but she did have an opportunity to speak already.
Okay. Well, if no one else wishes to speak at this time, I will close public comment. And I will entertain questions from the board that we may have of staff. We'll start down here with Director Amati. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Chair. I don't have any questions for staff, but I do have a number of comments that I'd like to make.
Go ahead.
Well, first, I just want to say I think we should have Helen give all of the public comments so that we can just listen to her accent for an hour. I think that would be amazing.
Go with that.
Yeah,
me too.
But in all seriousness, I also wanted to address something that Council Huber said, and I know what you meant when you said it, but we do serve the public, and this is a public meeting. So just wanted to say that. There were a number of speakers today who spoke to quality of life. And I just wanted to share an experience that I had while I was out canvassing and knocking doors. And there was a woman who I met who, when I told her I was running for the airport board, she immediately teared up and shared that she couldn't talk with me, which was a very surprising experience to have, since most people don't even know that there is an airport board. And I learned that her life essentially had been destroyed when NextGen changed the flight paths, and the flights that are coming into SFO now flew over Scotts Valley where her home was. She ended up losing her job. She lost her marriage, sold the house, and is now a resident here in Seaside. And I'm very thankful that she shared her story with me, because I think it is emblematic of the impact of what the operations of an airport can have on an individual. So I just wanted to start by saying that I do understand that this has very real impacts on people's lives, and I am empathetic to them. But it brings me to the question of I think somebody had brought it up. What can we do, and what should we do? And I represent the public, but I am bound by the law. And unfortunately, we are in a situation where that law is being interpreted by attorneys, of which I am not. And I try my best to ask a lot of questions until I get those questions answered to my satisfaction. And this is what I understand the law to be, which is that these ordinances were passed. As simply as I can state it, they had penalties and fines that were associated with these ordinances, and that to enforce them would be unconstitutional because those fines and penalties are the piece that are unconstitutional, which means that unfortunately we cannot enforce them. So, but that also begs the question, so what should we do, right? We have the option to, as has been suggested by the Monterey FlySafe group, to leave the ordinances on the books, right? Now, I don't disagree. I don't agree with that from a principle of good governance. I think that if you have unconstitutional laws on the books, that you should remove them. But I also do think it puts the airport in legal jeopardy in having ordinances on the books that we cannot enforce, but that we could be sued to enforce. And it's funny. In thinking about all of this, I went back and I referred to the civil grand jury report of all things on noise complaints. And I'm going to read just a couple lines from it in the summary, the opening paragraphs of the civil grand jury report that stemmed from complaints of noise violations that the airport was receiving. And the Monterey Peninsula Airport District does not have the authority to regulate what happens in the airspace, including flight paths. Those regulations are dictated by the FAA and are done so uniformly across the United States. Additionally, the airport identifies voluntary procedures on its website for pilots. Noise management recommendations for non-operational hours are unenforceable because Monterey Peninsula Airport operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, according to the FAA regulations. 24/7 airport must be available for emergencies and others. So I think that puts us in a bind as directors. And while I feel our hands are limited as it relates to these ordinances specifically, I do think that there is more that we can do as a board to build relationships within the communities and work to meet the community need and to communicate, frankly. Because I believe that if we had been communicating in this manner as plainly and as clearly as I am today, that we might not have come to this point. And I look forward to working with the rest of the directors and trying to get to a place where whatever structure that looks like, that we're able to build on those relationships. And I'll close with this last point. I received an email from a member of the community who asked me, is there really nothing that we can do? If you're telling me, Jonathan, that the board cannot do anything in this circumstance, what can we do as a public then, if you serve us? And I responded that that's not actually true. There is an avenue that can be engaged in order to try to make change in the community. Now, it's not with this board, it's with the FAA. And individuals, cities, community groups, such as the Monterey FlySafe Coalition, can file what is known as a petition, a rulemaking request with the FAA that could ask for the FAA to enforce exactly what is being asked for, whether it's a curfew, whether it's certain flight paths. And I think the thing that frustrates me in this situation is that the attorney, Mr. Tabor, who represents this group, is well aware of this avenue, this approach, because he's done it. He did it as recently as 2022 for the city of Malibu. And so I feel like our hands are tied. I feel like there's more that we can do. And I find this whole situation frustrating, that this is the place that we're in. And Chair, I just want to thank you for the grace to allow me to share those comments. I know I took up a lot of time, but thank you for that opportunity.
Thank you. You're welcome. Director Leffel.
Thank you. I think one thing that was overlooked in a lot of the correspondence that we received was that on July 16th, we did pass a resolution to put in place some voluntary measures. And those are measures that are not in violation of the federal law. We're not in violation of FAA, but that we are taking the first step as a board to say, we are going to put this out there. We're going to share it. We have shared, I think, in the presentation that got cut short, there was a picture of what is handed to every pilot at the flight school and every pilot at the FBO of the timing and the regulations. So if you want a copy of that, I think staff is very happy to share it with you. But it's important to know that the staff works very hard every day to work with anyone who may be in violation. We had one gentleman who flew a little plane that was constant. He was our number one. If we saw our complaint log, he was number one month after month. And finally, going through him and I think to his boss, we were able to get him, and he actually moved his plane over to Salinas. So the staff does work. We have a staff of 29 people. That includes maintenance people, and it includes the CEO. That's a very small staff to be managing a $200 million project and all the day-to-day activity here. I happened to be on the phone yesterday with Ms. Morello on an issue, and I heard her interruption, and I said, what's going on? She said, we had to make sure that we had a NOTAM, which is the notice to airmen, that over by the weather's, what's it called? NOAA, whatever they are over there, that they had a huge crane that went up, and that crane impacts our airfield. So that's the sort of thing that, like, on a 360-degree level day in and day out. They're not just looking at getting paperwork out and communicating. They're also just trying to do the best to keep it a safe, viable airport. I live in Monterey. I have a dog that probably most of you have seen around with me. At 5:08 or whatever time that first flight goes, he usually lifts his head and moves against me, looks at me, and we both go back to sleep if we can. I hear it. I sleep with my window open. I hear the ones. I moved here in 1982 as an Army wife. My husband was in Turkey for 15 months. I had two fairly small children. I had a very dear family member who was ill and was dying, and I flew in and out of here in 83 4 or 5 times. I will tell you, I always got on that 11:30 flight that came in from San Francisco. So those late flights have been coming a long time. Now, those late flights, those planes were, I think, 18 passengers, not more than 30. I think they were like 18. And half the time they canceled them because they didn't have 7 people even to get on them. And then you ended up getting a rental car and driving down. It was brutal, particularly when you got small kids that are sitting here waiting for you to get them to school the next morning. But I just want to tell you, we're humans. We're your neighbors. We care about you. We care about the airport. We care about the commerce. We care about the business people. We are balancing. I like what she said. Balance is the key to it. We have to balance what everybody does. I cannot, as an elected official, someone who is my brain is always wrapped around numbers and fiscal responsibility. I cannot leave something on the books that knowingly would open us up to lawsuits. That just does not make sense to me, not in any way. And Jonathan says good governance. It is good governance when you realize you've got an issue to clean it up. And I think that's what we're looking to do. We did pass Resolution 1910. I would really ask all of you to take a look at it. There was a mistake in the presentation. I believe that we said it would be from 12 to 5 because we know we have flights coming in at 11:30 at night. And why would we pass something that we already knew we had commercial flights that are scheduled? And we said we would make it at 5 in the morning. This is what I remember, but we know my memory. We would make it at 5 in the morning because we have commercial flights that people rely on to connect, to go east, to connect, to go see grandchildren, family members, to go to jobs. There are a lot of people who fly out of here on a weekly basis, 2 or 3 times a month where they fly east to connect. So we do a dance, I think, almost regularly and try to keep things balanced. The other thing that we did say in the resolution was that we would broadly disseminate the materials to the aviation community and the public through established district communication channels. And we put and continue to do it. So it's not a one-time, we're going to leave this meeting, we're going to send everybody out something for your neighborhoods, and then we're not going to talk to you again. This is an ongoing process, and I think that you're hearing from all of us that we are committed to that. I kind of laughed before we were forced into districts by the law. I used to be at the Seaside City Council probably at least once a month and many times more. And I know Mayor Rubio and then Mayor Oglesby would always call me up to the podium to say what's going on at the airport. So, shame on us. We're not out there. We're not doing it. I think you're going to see us. I know that a lot of you got irritated because that presentation went long. I appreciate Jean Rash for saying that she really appreciated that the details and the information was there, because we can't make decisions unless we have that information and that data. So being part of an elected official is to listen carefully, read everything that we can, do our homework, and try to make the best informed decision. And that's what we're trying to do today. So I thank all of you for coming and participating. We all took notes. I think we're going to try to work hard. And my recommendation is that we have a good air service community relations committee. I know that there are several people here who have come on a fairly regular basis. You've heard what we have to say. You've received some information. There were people who came who said, you know what? Okay, we get it. We're not, you won't see us again. We still don't like something, but we get it. We understand it. And that's really, it's about conversation and sharing information and why things happen. Sometimes we don't know. I learned so much from John Gagliotti the last 2 or 3 months on why pilots fly and where they fly. And it's just something that we all, I think, have to learn from each other and not just get stuck in our ways. So, and Tom Reeves, I'm waiting for my invitation. So anyway, thank you all very much.
Thank you. Director Gaglione.
Yeah, I wasn't going to comment, but I really, really appreciated. Thank you, Chair, for allowing Director Amati to say those words, because a lot of things that he brought up, I'm in absolute agreement with, and I'm really glad that you hit a number of issues that are kind of in my head, or right on the head. And I also appreciated Director Leffel's comments in kind of making it punctuating that we are humans, that we are neighbors, that we, in fact, I empathize because I live in the flight path with many of you, and so we're not this kind of removed board, and that call to be better about getting out into the public is not silent. That's I'm taking that to heart. That's something that I think I definitely need to improve on. Okay, so those were my comments. My questions are, and these are mostly to Mr. Huber. What I heard a lot in the public comments is that the repealing of the ordinances is going to be a loss in protections. The presentation went a long way in the historic kind of adherence to the ordinances, and that at best we followed them voluntarily, and then that Resolution 1910 codified those best practices, but again maintained that voluntary program. Would you clearly state as council that are the protections that are in those 3 ordinances that that are before us to repeal, are any of those protections being lost? I want that answered.
The short answer is no. None of them are being lost.
Okay. The second one is that there are more flights. I heard that there are more flights now than there were in the past, and that there was a presentation. In the presentation, Executive Director Morello demonstrated that the actual number of flights, which showed to actually be fewer than greater. I have to trust that this is verifiable information and that can be reproduced by others, and have to take that as the truth. I just want that confirmation from staff.
We confirm that, and we provided the link to the data in the presentation, and we'll be posting the presentation.
Okay. And I didn't hear, but I've read in some of the public comment, and maybe Council Huber, you can talk about this, is that due to next gen changes, is that the approaches have changed to a degree, or have changed, and that has increased impacts. To your knowledge, do you believe that to be true, or can you verify that, or?
I think we had a slide on that, didn't we? That we decided in the desire to make it more brief, that we pulled out, that showed the tracks, both pre next gen and post next gen, if I remember correctly. Did we not do that? Okay, I thought we thought about it. Anyway, to my knowledge, next gen has had a minimal impact on this airport.
Yeah.
Other airports, I couldn't say that. Phoenix has had some substantial growing pains with next gen and litigation and along those lines. Here, I'm not aware of the impacts at all.
Okay. I will just have this one anecdote, and that is that the comment that I've read, that the ILS 10 right approach has changed since next gen. That is factually true. But where it's actually changed from my experience is where you enter it, which is actually at Zbed, which is 6 miles out to sea. But the approach, the actual ILS approach, once you're cleared and you're established, you're flying the exact same approach that's been there since it was only a VOR, a localizer approach in the 60s. So that part hasn't actually changed, but getting there has. That's been my own experience in what NextGen has afforded me. And then I heard an ask, and in fact, you kind of touched on it, Director Leffel, in that we have never, as a board, or had the authority over when to dictate when commercial flights can operate, and that's even in the I mean, that's called out in the existing ordinance. And so the repeal of these ordinances, and even the adoption of Resolution 1910 would not increase our ability to affect when commercial flights can operate. Is that correct?
That is correct. And if I can use an analogy, if you look at a toolbox, we're not taking any tools out of the toolbox. We're not taking any out of the toolbox. You have the same tools you had before. And so it is not going to change anything.
Okay. But I mean, as a body here, when we're asked, is there anything that we can do to, encourage flights to come later or take off later and arrive sooner? That's never been within our ability to do in the past.
No, the airlines dictate when they want to come and when they want to go.
Okay. All right. Those were kind of my 3 questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Pick.
Thank you, Chair. So I want to start by thanking everybody that took the time to come and sit through this and think about what you wanted to say and then make thoughtful comments. I'm profoundly grateful to all of you for doing it. In this day and age, polite, thoughtful discourse about disagreements, especially political, is rare. And I, for one, just appreciate it very, very much. I think the tensions built into this decision are multifold. They are not simply residential noise concerns versus FAA-driven rules and regulations that govern flight traffic. I was delighted to learn, and I learned a lot today, about the concerns of our young working families here and their desire to make a home here, make a living, and thrive. As a father of 2 adult children who can't possibly move back here, given what they do and what is available here, I'm envious that you're all here, and I'm glad. I learned a lot about that. I think that the concerns from the business community, I was fairly familiar with. I learned a lot from the residents that showed up. And I want to, I suppose I'll telegraph, I do concur with the staff recommendation for the reasons that many of my colleagues have stated and has been briefed, that the repeal of these ordinances is necessary and correct. But I want to emphasize that it is not a simple binary decision. Leave the ordinances on the books or remove the ordinances and do harm to the community. I think there's been a bit of a false choice. Thank you. Established here in the narrative about this discussion. And the way I would characterize it, and what I believe to be the case, is that the board took responsible actions in July to pass Resolution 1910, codifying the voluntary safeguards and noise abatement procedures that are practiced and that will continue to be practiced and requested by most of our pilots, as was described by by our GA community. And thank you for coming and saying that. That was done prior to the repeal. And it was done by design to ensure that nothing lapsed. That's one step into the future. A second step into the future is our ownership, and you've heard it from various directors here in different ways. We have to do better at communicating with all of you. We have to get out there and be at community meetings, be at council meetings, and explain the contextuality of the situation so that you all have more information than you've had up to now. I appreciate the staff presentation very much today, and it was given before, but we just simply have to get out. And I also take on board the concerns about the time of our meetings, and that's something that we will continue to consider and discuss in terms of optimizing the ability of the public to have access to our meetings. I want to call out a few things I learned here because I think it's important. Tom Reeves, and also it's wonderful to see neighbors and former colleagues and members of the community here. Tom, your thought about looking at mechanisms outside of those ordinances that may allow us to address noise concerns, whether it's through leases or other mechanisms, is a fantastic idea. So I appreciate you mentioning that. Councilmember Rash, I appreciate the education campaign. I think we're all on board. The incentive program for pilots who comply voluntarily with the voluntary noise abatement recommendations as an incentive to increase compliance is a fantastic idea that bears thought. Ginny, your emphasis on creative solutions, bring them on. I love it. I'm game. And Mary, I noted that you volunteered to serve on any committee going forward or group. And I say that a bit with some humor, but really to emphasize that I think we're all committed to working with the community going forward to try to ensure that while we responsibly run a safe airport in compliance with FAA rules and regulations and all of that, that we are engaged and listening to our community. We are of you and from you. We are not some disembodied external group that comes from out of town and foists upon you our will. We live here and we appreciate you. So, Chair, thanks for indulging me.
Okay, thank you. And I want to start off by thanking all of you for showing up, and especially those of you that stuck around to see how this story is going to end here today. Thank you. I appreciate your comments, both in support and opposed to the ordinance being repealed. I do have a few questions. So, Mr. Huber, you had earlier said that touch and goes under this ordinance in our voluntary program are limited to 4 and a 2-hour period per aircraft. Is it per aircraft or pilot? I always thought it was per pilot.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did misspeak. It was per pilot.
Okay. Because sometimes we get complaints, that a pilot is doing, multiple in excess, but from our investigation, it's usually a different pilot that's using the same aircraft. It's been mentioned that ANCA changed a lot of the rules, but the fact that we had these ordinances in place prior to 1990, does that mean that they were automatically grandfathered in? My understanding was that the FAA had to approve the ordinance or approve the procedure before it would be considered to be grandfathered.
So ANCA does not require a pre-approval of grandfathering. ANCA itself does not. Let me be clear. I don't think I said that very clearly. ANCA does not require that ordinances that were already on the books be submitted for approval when ANCA came into place. However, The ordinances have to otherwise withstand constitutional and federal scrutiny. And none of these do. These were unenforceable pursuant to the FAA pre-ANCA. The FAA said, you can't enforce these except as voluntary. Voluntary only. Now, I will note, it wasn't in the presentation. One of the ordinances, it was either 309 or 310, I think, had a provision in it that said this is only effective after submission and approval by the FAA. Well, we have no approval from the FAA, so one of them clearly is not able to be enforced. But again, the statutes would otherwise have to be legal. And again, so they were never approved by the FAA pre-ANCA, 1986. The FAA letter said these are disallowed. Anyway, that's my answer there.
Okay. And it's already been mentioned by my colleagues that even if these ordinances were in effect and we could enforce them as criminal laws, it wouldn't apply to commercial traffic. You've already told us that. What about, could we write into our contracts hours of operation? Is that possible?
I would have to look at that, but I question whether that would be a possibility. I don't know that would be possible. I can't tell you the answer because I really haven't looked at that issue. I will say this as a general overarching, principle. I think these creative solutions ought to be thrown out there. Every idea is a good one for at least 30 seconds, maybe more, right? Some you look at and say, okay, well, we just can't do, right? But every idea ought to be thrown out because we can look at it. And by thrown out, I mean put forward, right? Not thrown out as in, in the trash. They should be put out, so that we can look at it and see, is this possible? Is this something we can do? Will the FAA allow it? Is it palatable?
So my recollection when we enacted the thing about times, because we had a discussion about what times, but we chose to stick with what the original ordinance said, to not deviate from that.
No, I think and again, I'm reading from what was published in the agenda, and the board changed it just to be midnight to 0500 hours.
The minutes in the August packet reflect the correct language.
And what did those say?
I'd have to go back and double check. I believe it's midnight to 5.
Okay.
I'll take a look right now and verify it.
It was previously 11 to 7. We changed it to midnight to 5.
While we're waiting, can I say something about that?
Yes.
It's interesting. I went back and read the old ordinances again before the meeting. And what was interesting was if you read the language, the reason they chose 10 to 7, it says in the ordinance, because the preceding 5 years, they had not had a commercial flight after 10 and before 7. So they just chose those because that's how people were flying in 1979. When we did the resolution and went 12 to 5, we did it to memorialize right now what we have, which is an 11:30 scheduled flight coming in. There seemed to be no reason to put a 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock when we know we've got scheduled commercial flights that are coming in after that FAA has allowed to do for a long time. And same thing with no reason to start at 7 when we know we've got 4 flights before 7 that are commercial flights that are regularly scheduled flights that our population depends on. So it was interesting to me to go back and see that's how they came up with their number. Like, okay, this is what we got. And that's what we did with this. So it's not that we're encouraging everyone to do it. We're just acknowledging the fact that we have those flights, and that's when it is.
So, and I can confirm the board did amend it from what was published in July, and the minutes do show it that it went from what was published to midnight to 0500 hours.
Okay. I know there was a lot of belief that, these early flights are something new, and we went back historically and found early flights. The only thing that I can think where people are focusing on, during COVID, our flights dropped off tremendously. We normally have over 20,000 enplanements. At 1 month, we dropped to 600. I remember taking my son up to San Francisco, which does 52 million enplanements a year. And it was like a ghost town at SFO. No one was there. No one was parked out front. No one was in the airport. He was flying out internationally. And I think we just got accustomed to that brief time during COVID when we didn't have aircraft, and now they're picking up again. And we've just seen the number. But everything that we had under ordinances 308, 309, and 310, we've incorporated in resolution 1910. So, I don't see how we can keep them on the books.
At this point, Mr. Chair, if there are no other questions, we.
Entertain a motion.
Would be appropriate.
I'll make a motion if you like.
Sure.
I make a motion that we adopt the second reading of ordinance 933, an ordinance of the Monterey Peninsula Airport District to repeal ordinances 308, 39, 310 relating to limiting airport hours of operation, regulating altitude of aircraft within certain distances of the airport, and regulating touch and go operations.
I'll second.
That.
Okay, we have a first and second. Can we have roll call, please?
Director Amati,
Aye.
Director Gagliardi,
Aye.
Director Pick,
Yes.
Director Leffel,
Yes,
Chair Miller.
Yes,
thank you all.
thank you. We're going to go ahead and take a 10-minute break at this time. And I want to thank everybody for coming. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, although it won't be as exciting. But we appreciate having the public here. Welcome back. It's 11:57. We are still here at the September 17th, 2025 regularly scheduled meeting of the Monterey Peninsula Airport Board. Per our governance manual, we reached our 4-hour limit. We can extend the meeting for 1 hour if we all agree on that, or a majority agree. We don't have to do a roll call, just all those in favor say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We will extend the meeting till 1 o'clock. And we have now going to regularly agenda item 1I2, the first reading of ordinance 934. Chris, are you going to be able to help us out with that?
Absolutely can help you with this. So this ordinance is repealing in its entirety ordinance 930 and adopting by reference the 2025 California Building Code Standards, Title 24, as adopted by the California Building Standards Commission, and the 1997 Uniform Code for the Abatement of Dangerous Buildings, the 1997 Uniform Housing Code, and the 2012 International Property Maintenance Code as published by the International Conference of Building Officials, regulating the erection, construction, enlargement, alteration, repair, moving, removal, demolition, conversion, occupancy, equipment use, height, area, and maintenance of all buildings or structures at the Monterey Peninsula Airport. By adopting by reference Part 9 of the California Fire Code, including the appendix chapters of the California Code of Regulations, Title 24, and providing for penalties for violation thereof. This happens every 3 years where the new codes come out for adoption. This will take effect according to the regulations of this passage on January 1st. So you have in front of you the staff analysis And we ask that you consider the adoption of the new building codes and fire codes as presented.
Well, that was a mouthful. It's almost like you read the whole ordinance.
I have it memorized.
Okay, let's open it up to public comment. We have no members of the public. They have all left. But we do have people with us remotely. If you wish to speak on this, please raise your remote hand.
We see no hands,
You
Chair.
see no hand, so I'll take it back to the board. Director Pick, do you have any questions?
I do not, Chair.
Director Gagliani?
No.
Director Leffel?
No, I just appreciate that we're getting it caught up and
Yep.
making this legal.
Director Amati?
No questions.
And I have no questions. We do this periodically, and I trust that the fire marshals have done a great job here and that they know what they're doing, certainly more than I think anybody on this board knows. So I will entertain a motion to pass to print.
So moved.
Second?
So first by Director Leffel, second by Director Pick, was it?
Yes.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Director Amati,
Aye.
Director Gagliardi,
Aye.
Director Pick,
Yes.
Director Leffel,
Yes.
Chair Miller.
Yes. Okay, item number 3, I3. Can you keep helping us, Chris?
We can keep helping, and Mark will help me on this one as well. So this is, again, the pass to print, the first reading of Ordinance 935, an ordinance of the Monterey Peninsula Airport District to amend and adjust the rate of customer facility charges for parking and construction of rental car facilities at the Monterey Regional Airport. So this is in relationship to the CFCs that we collect for revenue currently for the collection on rental cars. And I'll let Mark speak to the methodologies and why our request here to change.
Thank you. So the methodology that we have now and the methodology that the airports always has had is basically $10 per contract, irrespective of the length of the rental car contract.
Wasn't that the limit?
That is the
It was the limit.
that is the limit under the kind of what I would call the default method. So the default method is a charge per contract, and that limit is $10. In the various legislation, there is what's described as the alternate method, and the alternate method is a collection fee per day, and that fee per day is currently limited to $9 per day, not to exceed 5 days. There's also some legislation that's working that may, in the near future, increase that to $12 per day, 5 days limit. But for now, the limit is $9.
So, if I may,
Go ahead.
it's $1 less, but it's multiplied by days now. Whereas-
Correct.
yeah.
So in theory, if for example, the rate was $9, we could potentially get $45
yeah, right.
per contract versus 10.
Okay.
So thinking about this, we made some inquiries of the rental cars, and they said they get about average 4-day contract. So that's kind of went into the calculation of the math. So what is kind of driven this is the project that we've had for many years on the books now, which is the water distribution system, which
Right.
is entirely funded by CFCs, has completed, and we have used all our CFC monies to date to fund that. So in the fiscal 26 capital budget, we identified a project 2602, which is having to do with improvements in the ready return lots, short-term parking for rental cars, et cetera. So that was about $3.9 million. And subsequent to the budgeting process, we've identified about another about $1.1 million of projects. So the total project that we see over time relative to enhancing the rental car operations here at the airport is, in rough numbers, $5 million. So then the question is, at the current CFC collection rate, which would be about $600,000 a year, it would basically take forever to finance $5 million. So we looked at the alternative method. We also, in our plan of finance, given the amount of space in the replacement terminal that would be CFC eligible, and that's about 3.5%. That also means that 3.5% of our ultimate debt service on the replacement terminal would be eligible for CFC dollars as well. So the calculation that was done, and then I talked to PFM about this as well, is basically a calculation that would give us a return on our capital for the $5 million, and basically a commercially attainable loan on something like that would be, say, a 5-year term loan. And our cost of capital is about 5%. And I also factored in the debt service that would be applicable to the financing on the replacement terminal, and that was about $120,000 a year. So if you put all that together, you look at the average contracts of length of about 4 days, you crunch all the numbers, and you get a number that's about $8.50. So the proposal today really is to have the board consider the change in the methodology. And I believe that the way that this is structured is we would initially have a rate of $8.50. That rate could be revisited in the future should either the needs of the airport or the additional projects get identified, et cetera. So that's kind of where we came based on today, based on the numbers, based on the CFC eligible projects that we know of today.
And we would point you to section 4 of the ordinance. So right now it states in the amount of $8.50 per day applicable to each rental contract for up to 5 days until such time as the district has no debt related to the new rental car customer facilities. So it ends when we collect it. But future adjustments to the amount of alternative CFCs may be made by resolution of the board of directors. So we've, with the finances, the finance committee's suggestion, given us flexibility in the future to not have to go back to our ordinance and be able to do any additional adjustments or projects by resolution.
Okay. So the finance committee has looked at this and approved going forward, right?
Recommended.
Recommended going forward. Okay, let's open it up to members of the public. We have none here at the board chambers, but we do have a few on virtually with us. If any member of the public wishes to speak, please raise your virtual hand and we will call on you.
And Mr. Chair, I see no hands.
Okay, Director Amati, do you have any questions or comments?
Just wanted to share, yes, the Finance Committee did review this and we are recommending it to pass. I wanted to just point out two things that is in the background of the ordinance. One was that the airport did look at other alternatives to try to finance this. We recognize that there will be a financial burden on some of our residents if they are, renting a car from here, but that the majority of people who will encumber this this fee will be visitors or people who are traveling for business who hopefully will be able to expense those charges. So most of this shouldn't be borne by our residents. Additionally, staff did meet with the rental car companies to see if they would pitch in to help, and none of them wanted to. So for the benefit of the public who are not in the room, but maybe watching this later on Zoom, we reached out. They said no, they want nothing to do with it. And so the costs are being passed along to the public for these expenditures, which we have to take on. So I'm in favor.
Okay.
That's all.
Director Leffel.
Director Amati covered it. We felt very strongly. We asked staff to please look, because they could have gone to $9 a day, and to do the math and keep it as low as they could, but still make it meet our needs. And so they've done a good job. We thank you.
Okay, good. Director Gaglione.
No, I don't have any questions. They were raised and answered. So.
Director Pick.
Same.
Just a quick question. We are going to create a parking area for them near the new terminal.
That is
Are
correct.
we going to bear any expense for that? And this is going to be covered in that?
This is in it.
Okay.
What this is for.
Yeah.
Well, obviously I didn't read that part of it,
Primarily.
so that eluded me. I apologize. Don't I feel stupid right now? So, but thank you for doing that. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to pass to print for this ordinance.
I'll move that we pass to print ordinance number 935, an ordinance of the Monterey Peninsula Airport District to amend and adjust the rate of customer facility charges for planning and construction of rental facilities at the Monterey Regional Airport.
Second.
Okay, first by Director Amati and second by Director Leffel. Roll call, please.
Director Amati,
Aye.
Director Gagliardi,
Aye.
Director Pick,
Yes.
Director Leffel,
Yes.
Chair Miller.
Yes. Okay, item I4, Resolution 1914.
Yes.
Chris.
Yep. Resolution 1914 is granting a utility easement for the PG&E company to provide power loan relocation in support of the replacement terminal project. So there is a power pole to the southeast of the airport, which is currently in the footprint of where we'll be putting our long-term parking, our permanent long-term parking that needs to be relocated. So we have an easement that exists today for that, but we need to adjust that easement to the new location. So this is adjusting that easement and getting it recorded. So it's an easement relocation agreement for a power line that we need to replace as part of the landside components of terminal infrastructure.
And this was run in front of the lease committee, and we did recommend that you pass it. And the only other thing I would add is I was pleased to learn, because sometimes PG&E can be very slow, but staff has found a special representative of PG&E that represents all federal projects, which we qualify for, and they are not experiencing the same problem that so many other projects that are not federal have run into. So good news. Let's open it up to public comment. Any member of the public that's with us remotely that wants to comment, hopefully none of you work for PG&E, please raise your hand at this time if you want to speak.
Mr. Chair, I see no hands.
I see no hands also. Director Pick, anything?
No, Chair, thank you. Other than just to reiterate that the lease committee reviewed this and recommends approval.
Great.
No questions.
Director Leffel?
No, I'm
Director
very
Amati?
thrilled.
No questions. Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, first by Director Pick, second by Director Leffel. Can we have roll call?
Director Amati,
Aye.
Director Gagliardi,
Aye.
Director Pick,
Yes.
Director Leffel,
Yes.
Chair Miller.
Yes. Okay, any questions of the staff report, not our own liaison committees and stuff? Anybody have anything?
No.
None today.
No.
Okay. Yeah, that look in your eye. I was
None
worried.
today,
I
Chair.
was worried.
Uh,
Anybody else?
No.
Chair Miller, if I could just add one thing that came in while we were in this meeting that really does reflect our staff reports because of the terminal construction. California Senators Padilla and Schiff announced $25.13 million from Monterey Regional Airport for our terminal.
Oh, wow.
Great,
Bravo.
great. Perfect. So that's planned on money or unexpected money?
Planned on money.
Okay, but it's always good to get the actual money, so. Okay,
Why did they notify us? Why did
that's what they do.
That's, yeah,
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
it's customary and we thank them. Okay, so, any standing finance, anything you want to add? Air service, nothing. Lease, we'll say nothing. That sound good,
Yep.
Director Pick?
It does.
Okay. Personnel Committee, we're going to be talking about that in closed session.
Correct.
Okay. And local jurisdiction liaison, anything?
Nope.
Local agency formation, anything?
No, we will meet on the 22nd.
Taxi, I don't think you have
And
a
actually,
meeting.
Nope.
actually, I have tomorrow. I have finance and budget, and then I'm meeting with the auditor the following week. So I have quite a bit of LAFCO this month.
I was at the conference, so I wasn't able to attend the transportation meeting. I'll go to it this month. Special District Liaison Leffel.
No meeting until October, and Chris Morella will be the speaker. on
Really?
October 21st at Bayonet Black Horse.
Nice. Very good. And Director Leffel for AMBAG.
MPAD was a pretty short meeting. They went into closed session and stayed there a bit, so I
And you weren't invited.
was not invited. Thank God. So we will, they're working right now on their metropolitan transportation plan for 2040. So they're starting to plan on that and they're putting things together. And then there have been some changes because of the RENA numbers and builder's remedy and all types of things. So they've been working with the local planners to get them to understand a little bit more of how it could possibly impact the region.
In increase in RENA numbers, another increase in RENA numbers.
They didn't actually say that. What they're just saying is how people are actually working within the numbers and trying to get to them, or if they're thumbing their nose at
Yeah.
them and saying we can't do it. So, yeah,
okay.
there's just a discussion, and that's going on with the planners. So I'm not involved with that. They have special meetings with that.
Okay. We did have a conference that I believe everybody attended, but we do not have a written report, so I will ask for those members that did attend, if you would shoot me an email, I will throw something together from all of us, and we will present that at the next meeting to be in compliance with AB 1234 here. Pending requests for future agenda items, we have nothing pending.
I would like to suggest,
Yeah, we got that coming up for new stuff. But we have nothing pending for old stuff, correct?
We do not.
Okay.
Thank you.
Discussion for future agenda items. We'll start down here. Director Pick, do you have anything?
Only to mention the need for some future workshop on noise
Yeah.
with the community. I don't know what that looks like, but I think we need to keep it top of mind before we lose touch with it.
And we'll make that a priority in air service, putting something together.
Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Okay. Director Gaglione.
No, I mean, it looks like you and I will be working on putting something together for that. I know that, I'll just say that Scott Donaldson, in his State of the State or State of Delray Oaks, has committed us to that. I mean, he's told everyone that that's coming, so.
Yeah.
Thanks, Scott.
That's how he
Thank
works.
you.
Well-
Exactly right. Exactly. He goes, yeah, so.
Jeez.
Okay, Director Leffel.
I would like us to have a conversation about moving that committee, air service,
To a
time.
later
Yeah,
time.
to a
time,
later
yeah.
time.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. we'll talk with staff and we'll see what we could work out that everybody can live with.
Actually, well,
Any,
I'll wait. I've got an alibi, but I'll wait.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not part of the working public anymore. I do a lot of stuff, but I don't have a job where I have to be on a call because somebody told me I have to be. So I think to be respectful of the 3 members of this board, or 2, I guess John's not working anymore, but of 2,
Oh, bum.
John's living the life. To be respectful of the 2 of you who still are employed, I think if we're going to talk about moving the time of our board meeting, we also need to talk about it because we have 2 elected officials of whether or not it works for you all. I don't know. I mean, we ended up moving to 8 to accommodate when we had 3 working members, which were Lisa, Dino, and John.
Yeah.
So we moved it to 8 a.m. That's how we got to 8 a.m. So,
Can we talk about that for a minute?
I don't think we can talk about
Sure.
it today because it's not on the agenda, but I think it can be a future agenda item that we can take forward. So,
okay.
But can those comments be part of the framing of what might be on the agenda?
If the comments are related to specifics and whether it should be at a certain time or not, if it's about the subject matter, then it
Right.
shouldn't be. If it's about putting it on the agenda and what it looks like, that's okay.
Okay.
All right.
That
I
was
mean,
exactly the question.
I would like to discuss it. I think an evening meeting.
okay, I just want to say, I would ask staff and whoever's going to be inputting that we be really cognizant of the fact that we represent a lot of cities. And so that we also look at when they have
Yeah.
council meetings,
Yeah.
which is why I told Mr. Flashman, I'm like, it's not that easy. You know, you've got all these cities, they all meet on different nights. And so we might have it, but then we just eliminate everybody that would want to have a conversation of wherever their other jurisdiction is. So just FYI, I think it's a little more difficult than what people think. But anyway, I'll be, whatever you all can come up with, I will try very hard to make my schedule work with it.
Okay.
Good.
Director Amati.
Yes, I do have one item that I want to bring up. I think there was some misunderstanding, at least for me, and maybe other members of the board when we passed 1910. In looking at the language online, the voluntary curfew hours exclude commercial. This is really just for general aviation and private aircraft. Commercial aircraft are not, they're explicitly called out as excluded. So I think we should maybe take a look again at 1910 and the hours with the consideration that it is specifically for general aviation and that commercial is excluded, and that maybe we would amend the hours based on the fact that it is limited to a different audience.
So the only thing I would say about that, I love again, the intent is great. My concern there is I could see a critique of that as trying to be too clever by half, right? In other words, thanks for that, board. You're really not fixing the problem. The problem is that really loud jet that lands at 11:30 p.m. and that really loud jet that takes off at 5:15. And now we can say, well, yeah, we can't influence that, but we're trying to work your way. I'm
Is that a second to have it on the agenda? I think I need a second, right?
you're trying to agendize an item. Sorry.
That's what we're discussing, right?
Yeah.
There's a possible.
Yeah.
Can I just interject for a second? Let us go back and listen to the conversation because it was recorded and it was an extensive conversation, and make sure that we didn't, and let us look at the actual language in the resolution and make sure what's on our website is actually accurate
Okay.
and appropriate to that. And we'll let you know because that was something we had before. Under the old voluntary ordinance or voluntary program we had, military, commercial, they were all exempt for what we just talked about. That whole conversation we had, they were always exempt. And maybe that language is a carryover, I'm not sure. So let us first validate that before we have to have a meeting or have a discussion, if that works.
And that language has to remain, right?
Correct. I mean, they're voluntary.
But
No, meaning that
The exclusionary?
the exemptions have to remain, correct?
Well, again, you could put voluntary
For everyone?
restrictions on it for everyone. You can. They're voluntary.
Yeah.
You could. What you can't do is try and prohibit someone from
Mhm.
coming. If they
Yeah,
say, "Look,
that's
we have
right,
to come
yeah.
in at 11:30. You couldn't say, no, sorry, look at our voluntary, guidelines to say, no, we don't want you here.
Yeah.
And one of the concerns I had, Scott, was us making a modification without running it by FAA. So I take that we want to discuss this in the future.
We did discuss the fact, and it was a lot because of John Gagliotti telling us of why he has to leave at 5 a.m. when he's going east to meet with a client because of the heat off of the desert. And that was another reason why we went to 5 a.m. And also the civil sunset in the summer that you can't take off until what, 8:45 or something? And then you have to
Not-
be up and do your touch and goes or whatever you do, and that you could not possibly land before 10 o'clock. That is how we got to those numbers. So I should have, I guess, repeated all of that for everybody. But we didn't just talk about commercial. We talked about the need, Matt Pet, whatever his
Yeah.
name is, Matt Paz,
Yeah.
he got up and he spoke, and John spoke, and John convinced me that it just made sense for the small pilot. Since then, I've talked to a couple others who said, oh yeah, I've got family in Arizona, and I have to leave here by 5 in order that I don't get the turbulence that's created by the heat coming off of the desert. So that was how we got to that.
Okay.
So I don't know that we have to open it again, because we did talk about all of that. So
Here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to watch the tape. I'd like the staff to go back and run it, because just overnight, just trying to figure out what we actually approved was a chore. Trying to compare the minutes to the reso and whatnot. So I'd like to do that before we bring it back.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I'm okay with that. I'll withdraw my
Okay.
request for agenda item at this time.
Sounds good.
Mr. Chair, you do have a hand that was raised for this item. I'm not sure if this individual wants to speak, but if you do, Mary, your hand is raised. We'll go ahead and.
I'm sorry, Mary, I didn't open to public comment.
Oh.
It's open now. Is there anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, you know what? Just adding, I'm not the boss of you all, but it'd be great because you're talking about this, about community relations. If actually each one of you board members went into somebody's home and spent time with them when this noise and all the disturbances and all those are happening, that would be very cool. So that was just a thought that popped in my brain. Because developing that community interface and also with the city councils and all that. So thanks.
They could come
Thank
to
you.
my house,
Yeah. Okay.
because I'm also in.
Jonathan, can you move into some people's houses if we ask you to?
No, I don't mind. I mean, I'll host.
No, that sounds like a good
It's a good
plan. Thank
idea.
you, Mary.
Well, one more thing is if board member John, if you'd give us a ride in your plane, that would be great.
Yeah, I will. In all seriousness,
Yeah.
I have offered that to those because I've wanted to explain, I've wanted to demonstrate that the pilots that fly in this airspace are not actually undirected. They're not making their own decisions. They're being told what they can and can't do. And so, and I've actually, I think when you were running when Director Mahdi was running, I did that. So, I mean, I have to kind of figure out some kind of, but let me figure out how I can do something like that. Cause I would love.
So educational.
Yes, I would love for people to see that it's not willy-nilly. It's not undirected. It's highly, highly prescriptive. So flying here.
And Matt P also offered it.
Is that right?
He said take anybody. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay. Very good. Okay, Mary, the onus is on you to get a hold of Director Gagliani and set
Yes.
something.
I did. I shot him an email. I wouldn't mind having someone come in here when they're doing the donuts overhead. So
Okay.
All right. Yeah, I will. I'll come.
Okay.
We probably live pretty close to each other. So.
Okay. Very good.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary. We're not going to adjourn. We're going to go into closed session. Are we going to lose Director Amati?
Unfortunately.
Did you order lunch?
About. I did order lunch, but it's not here, so that'll.
Okay.
Well,
you better come back and get it, or else you're
have,
paying us for it.
to have staff.
Can you take your call from outside and wait for your chow?
Thank you, Jonathan.
Okay. No problem.
We
I
are
understand that.
Lloyd.
Hello, we are out of closed session. It is 12:54 for the September 17th, 2025 regularly scheduled board meeting for the Monterey Peninsula Airport District. We were in closed session. We have nothing to report. And we lost Director Pick and Director Amati shortly before going back into open session. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. We are adjourned at 12:55. Thank you very much. Okay.